Hello everyone, I'm the Weather Dude, welcome back, and you know I love doing these videos, and today we're talking about, again, some major upcoming snowstorms potentially for the east. So, without further ado, let's get into it and enjoy this video. Before we get started with the video though, if you guys have not already, please consider subscribing. It really does help my channel grow. I want to thank you guys so much for 2,000 subscribers. We've flown past, and hopefully we can hit our next goal of 3,000 subscribers soon. And also, to help this video reach more people, please consider liking and sharing it as well. And let's get into the video now. And hopefully you guys stay tuned for the whole video because it would mean a lot to me. And also, if you don't, you may be missing out on some great weather forecasting. So today, we are going to be talking about, again, upcoming major snowstorms. And as you notice in the title, that's plural, upcoming major snowstorms. Because, yes, there is two systems that we're going to be tracking. We're going to take a look at the models, some oscillations as well. So hopefully you guys enjoy. So starting off, though, with the Climate Prediction Center, this is the outlook. Today is January 5th when I'm recording this. This outlook is from January 11th through the 15th, and the map was actually updated today. And as you can see, for the southeast and the extreme southern plains, there is the chance for below average temperatures. And actually closer to the Gulf Coast is actually a higher probability. Now, keep in mind, the darker blue does not mean, like this darker blue shade does not mean that we're going to be farther below average than, say, like right here. All the darker shades of blue mean is that there's a higher probability of seeing colder air. This doesn't tell you how much cold air there's going to be. And the same goes for the warmer air, right? Like the darker red doesn't mean it's going to be higher above average than like in Michigan, right? So I just want to clarify that. The more deeper color just means a higher probability of seeing cold air versus warm air. But definitely some average conditions in the middle for the Mid-Atlantic to the Midwest, parts of the Four Corners regions, but a good chunk of the country as well. The Northwest, North Central, and the Northeast, Upper Midwest, some above average temperatures. And as for precipitation, for the Southeast and the Mid-Atlantic, or the Southeast coast, I should say, and the Mid-Atlantic coast, above average precip, maybe some slightly below average precip in the middle, and then more far below average precip in the west, and then Northwest some above average precipitation. Again, just because there's below average precipitation does not mean we're going to have at least, one storm coming through. It just means, again, that's going to be below average. So we're going to take a look at our oscillations now. All right, so here we go with the PNA, our Pacific North American oscillation, and these three oscillations I do like to go over. Now, again, remember, a positive PNA means cold air and even some storm systems for the central and the eastern United States. All right, so PNA is above that zero line and really has been for a while now. So that kind of trend really does, that could tell that there's going to be storms coming through. Now, this doesn't mean that the entire east and southeast is going to get like a huge snowstorm, but it just tells that there could be stormier patterns coming through. There could be colder waves of air, whether those two line up, right? Like if there's a storm system coming with colder air, then we're going to have snow. But if the moisture and the cold air aren't really there at the same time, they really, then the storm is probably just going to be rain, or it may be cold but with no snow. So hopefully that makes sense. But when there's a positive PNA, all in all, probably some colder air dipping down to the central U.S., maybe the eastern U.S., maybe some stormier patterns. And a negative NAO, again, means the same thing as a positive PNA. Those are basically two of the opposite. Again, this just updated today right here, as you can see. All right, and NAO is probably going to stay down. It looks like, according to this, at least through early to mid-January. And when we look at the AO, all right, this has been down for a while. It's been down around -3, -4, actually, so pretty far down, actually. And the AO being this low is what really is probably driving the cold air down, because this has been really low, according to the ensemble models. Although it is forecast to go back up a little bit, but still remaining below the zero line, most likely at least through mid-January, probably remaining below that zero line. So we're going to take a look at the models now, right? So we have our first system, and this is swinging through actually tomorrow all the way. Sorry about my throat, guys. Tomorrow all the way potentially through Friday. It'll probably be on the East Coast. And then we have our next system that's going to come through around Sunday to Monday time frame, all right, depending on where you live. We're going to go over it all on the models right here. So here we have the GFS model, and I'm not going to spoil anything. We have the GFS, the Canadian, the European, I believe also the GFS V16, but one of these models says something very, very interesting. They show something very interesting. I'm not going to spoil it, all right? I'm not like that, all right? But you got to stick around to find out, because which model, or one of these models does say something very interesting. But GFS model, here we go. The blue lines you see here, this is like your what we call the 540 line. I mean, it's kind of like a rain-snow line, sort of, but within these blue lines, there's definitely some colder air that can support snowfall. Because as you can see, to the north of the blue line, right, there's some snow flurries. As you can see, this is 8 p.m., so this is actually like right now. But we're gonna move forward, all right, to the first system. So as you can see, Thursday at 8 p.m. Here is the low moving through the southeast, relatively weak. All right, this is gonna be a relatively weak storm until it heads off the east coast. Now, where primarily will the snow be? Primarily will be the Appalachian Mountain region, still considered the mid-Atlantic, technically in the southeast. All right, snow is 1,009 millibars, not very strong yet, but watch. All right, as it moves east, now we're starting to run into some colder air in the mountains, right? We got kind of blue line sitting right about here, and therefore some snow is breaking out in places like Asheville and the higher terrain of North Carolina. All right, and then the low does get a bit more, as it heads offshore, it becomes a bit more organized. The heavy rain moves a little bit farther offshore. The blue line is still relatively down here, actually, and we do have some snow breaking out in central and western North Carolina. And there could even be some snow in the lower elevations in like central and eastern North Carolina, like you can see here. So some snow could break out in these regions as well. All right, and then look at this. Look at like southeastern Virginia and eastern North Carolina could get in on some snow now. Although the proximity of the low pressure center to the coastline, I feel like if the low is that close, so even though the 540 line is actually pretty far south, but if the low is that close to shore, it may push too much moisture. Like, you kind of see how like there's darker blue and pink, but then like right next to it there's like yellow, meaning heavy rain. So this could be like a very spotty situation where some people may be seeing heavy snow, but down the road a few miles or 10 miles, it may be raining. So that could be one of those, right? Like, there's no widespread snow outbreak, although regional areas, local areas could see some snow, maybe even for Chincoteague and Assateague Island, as you can see here. So a little bit of snow as it moves up, but other than that, not too much in the way of snow for the northern mid-Atlantic, and now the low is really strengthening as it heads offshore. All right, so that is our first system. Now I'm going to go to hour 90 just to show you the snowfall totals from the first system alone. And as you can see, actually GFS is going pretty bullish here for central North Carolina, and about 9.5 inches of snow, which actually they put more snow in central North Carolina than they do in the mountainous regions in western North Carolina, which is pretty interesting. I'm not saying that can't happen, that's just kind of interesting with them. But still 6-7 inches of snow for western North Carolina. Not so much for eastern Tennessee on the Appalachian, but the eastern Appalachian side, like western North Carolina, potentially, maybe some of that heavier snow. Even southeastern Virginia, 6 to 8 inches is what the GFS is talking about right now. But I would apologize about that. There were some technical difficulties with the GFS model, but the recent model runs, actually on the second storm, have been kind of trending. Maybe like it won't really be there necessarily, but it only takes one model run. Like when I show you the models coming up, it only takes one model run, like the next model run, for something major to change. Now, we're going to move on to the Canadian model. All right, our first system, as you can see right here. Now, the low, as you can see, is more so off the coast. Our 540 line is still sitting pretty far south. We got some more widespread area of snow breaking out. This even includes now places like eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, western Virginia, eastern Tennessee, and western North Carolina. Of course, mostly mountain elevation still, but of course, some snow closer to the ground. And again, I look at our low. Instead of the GFS having like right on shore with the snowfall right there, the Canadian has it more so the low offshore and then the snow kind of like separated back here, which I do think is more accurate considering the placement of the 540 line. Not to mention, when a low is that close to the shore, you're not really going to have snow. Like if the low is farther off the coast, I could see that, but I think this setup does make a little bit more sense as of now. But notice, as the low moves up the coast, you know, and the snow gets closer to the coast, like some snow for north central North Carolina or south central Virginia, but then not really much. It kind of phases into rain before it moves off the coast. All right, and really nothing for the second storm, although the low is actually down here. All right, again, it could take one model run to change it, but that is our next storm. All right, because models been very back and forth. Like one model run said snow for the east, and then the next model run it just kind of like drops it completely. So snowfall totals with the Canadian model here. Let's go at about 5 days or so, and you can see now the heavier snow, instead of being like right here like the GFS model had it, Canadians more so back here like 6 to 10 inches. Again, from eastern Kentucky, extreme southern West Virginia, western Virginia. Also some isolated 6-inch plus amounts for a place like Asheville in the high mountains and the Smoky Mountains of western North Carolina. All right, so this is the European model here on Tropical Tidbits. I just want to show you guys real quick what the cold air looks like at 5,000 feet, because you can see like right now, well actually this was this morning, the cold air is really dominating over the east. All right, and this actually still holds true through Thursday morning, right? Like look at the cold air, it's just like holding in. And this is at 5,000 feet, and it's important to have that cold air at 5,000 feet. But look at Saturday morning, look at all the cold air down in the southeast and south central. And it's funny because this exact same area, let me zoom out, pretty much the exact same area that the Climate Prediction Center highlighted in their forecast. All right, I'm not saying they're copying each other, I'm just saying that they're agreeing with each other, and that's always good. All right, look, even through the 11th through the 14th, which is the same time frame as the Climate Prediction Center, look, there's your cold air kind of like dominating through the south and then through the east, right? And then maybe a little bit warm air gets in at the end, that's okay, right? But overall, for the southeast, it'll probably be colder through the next 10 or so days. All right, just because we have one warm day doesn't make the whole time period warm, right? We're allowed to have one warm day, and it's still technically kind of cold. So that 11th through the 15th time frame is what the Climate Prediction Center was kind of talking about, which is actually when the second storm is supposed to arrive. But without further ado, we're going into the European model now, and then we have our V16 version of the GFS. All right, so here's our European model. And again, here's a storm moving through. Again, not really relatively strong system. It's not weak either, but it's not that strong yet. A lot of more wintry mix with the European model. No ice I'm seeing, which is good news. But definitely northeastern Georgia and some heavier snow actually, right in the western corner-ish of North Carolina, like right in that corner right there is where we can see some heavy snow according to the European model. All right, and then there you can see the low moves offshore, and again, the European model, like the GFS, like I said earlier, had the low here with snowfall like right there. European model, again, like the Canadians, more realistic, like where it's offshore, our lows offshore. We got a slight band of snow and mix developing over in North Carolina right there. All right, but then could turn back to rain, but notice how the low starts winding up and makes a little bit more cold air. So maybe, just maybe, I wouldn't say Cape Hatteras, but maybe some coastal locations for Virginia and North Carolina could see at least a few flakes. Like, look at this. Look at the European model, right? Northeastern corner, there you go. Some snow and mix is possible, right? Like I said, this could change in the next model run. But now we got to show you guys something very interesting. Here comes the next low, and yes, in case you guys couldn't tell already, this is the big surprise. Look at this monster coming down, coming up the shore, and you can see it's actually still weak right now. Technically, all right, although it doesn't look like it by the precipitation, but technically in terms of pressure, this storm is 1 millibar weaker than the other storm. All right, we have our snow and mix breaking out, not just mountains, but low elevation as well. Northern South Carolina, western North Carolina, western Virginia, and also eastern West Virginia. Even some snow showers for eastern Tennessee and Kentucky, mix of rain and snow as well. But then look at this. Look at that. DC at this point is right on the wintry mix line. The lows down here. We got your rain snow line. It is west of I-95 for now. All right, but look at the snow breaking out in Virginia and Maryland, right? They look how close the low is. Now, at this point, the rain snow line is right on, if not just an inch west of 95, but move closer. And you got your very heavy snow in Pennsylvania, in northern Maryland. Then, behind the system, once that low moves up, the cold air crashes behind it. So New Jersey, southern Maryland, even Delaware crashes over to wintry mix. All right, and even some heavier snow through Massachusetts as well. But you could just see, look at the low. Look how neat this looks, right? Look, you could just see, look at the darker blue, right? Look how it just makes like an arrow shape. You can just see the cold air that's just funneling in right in that direction. Right in that dark blue region right here is where that cold air is getting funneled in. We got the snow breaking out. So what a storm this would be. All right, so European model. So just from the first system, we're not talking about second system yet. From the first system, a good 6 to 10 inches could break out in western North Carolina, maybe on the Carolina-Tennessee border. Again, with a couple inches, maybe breaking out in the central and eastern part of the state. Maybe a couple inches of snow, maybe for central Tennessee. Of course, through southern Illinois, western Kentucky. But then from the next system, however, then the snow really does break down. The highest snowfall totals, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, 12 to 18. We also got 12 to 18 plus even for places like southern New York, northern New Jersey, eastern PA, down through central western Maryland and northern Virginia. And actually, ironically, this has happened before too. Washington, D.C. is actually at around 10 to 12 inches, while Philly is only at 6. New York City is only about 5. Boston's about 4. Boston and New York and Philly are right on that like border between a couple inches and like over 10. So, but DC, according to this as of now, seems to be around a foot. So that's a lot of snow. Now DC is a bit further west, so for this situation, it does make sense. Even though DC is a little bit further south, so maybe their temperatures could be a hint warmer. But if they're farther west and they get on the backside of that system, DC could get more snow than Philly. I mean, it's not like it can't happen. And then again, once you combine the first and the second system, the mountains in western North Carolina, Smoky Mountains, and parts of the Appalachian could end up with over 12 inches of snow as well. All right, so it's not just the mountains, it's the East Coast as well. All right, and our GFS V16, our V16 version parallel the GFS model. As you can see, low moves offshore. We got some snow breaking out over in here. Now, this is kind of like a different model. Now, you would think that this is going to be like a duplicate of the GFS itself. Not necessarily true, actually, all right? Because look at the low here. Look at the very heavy snow that breaks out in southeastern Virginia and northeastern North Carolina. You see very heavy snow breaks out. And then the low kind of moves up the East Coast a bit more, but there's no snow still. All right, so in that sense, the GFS and the V16 GFS do agree with each other. All right, but if the low does move up the East Coast, maybe, but first and the second system, again, there's your second system, kind of like right here. But the model is definitely, like, this is, like, way far out. So models could easily change their minds about this as well. Snowfall totals with the GFS V16. Quite a lot of areas, actually, in that 6 to 10 inch snowfall totals, but probably for those higher mountainous regions as well. All right, now, moving on to our final graphic here, looking at some wind speeds. All right, look at the wind gusts with the European model. Right, here's our first system, right? We got some 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. But let's go in the Monday. As the storm moves out the coast, look at this. Offshore winds, 80 miles an hour plus. Inland, still 50-mile-an-hour winds. GFS as well. I mean, you look at Friday, still got 30-mile-an-hour winds, 40-mile-an-hour winds. And then the second storm, we'll have to see about that one. But the European really going gangbuster on the next system. So we'll have to see about that. Stay tuned for updates. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am the Weather Dude, signing off. Till next time, I will catch you guys in the next video.